Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 1974 AMC Hornet X hatchback. Now this car was produced from 1969 to 1977, with the model years being 1970 to 1977, and the hatchback version of this car was introduced in 1973, meaning there were 4 versions of the car by that year on offer, the 2-door, 4-door and wagon, and the hatchback was the second most popular car in 1974 of this the car of this year. And yeah, it was the first US-made compact hatchback design, beating the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Nova hatchbacks by a full year. And it was also the first US-made car to have guardrail beam doors to protect occupants in a side impact. So yeah, a couple of firsts from AMC with this car in the US, meaning it's a pretty landmark car for US cars. And yeah, also it was featured in The Man with the Golden Gun, the James Bond film, most notable for the car chase in which it's chasing after Scaramanga, the villain, and it ended up being in one of the best vehicle stunts ever in films when it did a barrel roll, which is considered one of the most difficult stunts in film history, and I don't think it's been done for real ever since, I don't think, but nonetheless, even if it didn't have that James Bond connection, I still would love this car in the game. And I do love this car because, yeah, we've never had a Hornet before in previous Forza games. We've had the Hudson Hornet, which is where this car gets its name from, because obviously Hudson and Nash merged in the 50s and ended up, becoming AMC in not long after. And yeah, they kept this name on the back burner until 1969. And yeah, this car was such a radical and popular design that it was the basis for several vehicles after even it had finished production. It was the basis for the Gremlin when this car was around, and then for at least about 10 years or so after it finished, it was also the basis for the Concorde, the Spirit, and the very innovative Eagle, which was an all-wheel drive crossover, which was well ahead of its time because now crossovers are pretty much the norm in the car industry. And yeah, it's a pretty spacious car as well for such a compact vehicle. Easily got a space for 4 people in there, and it's got, obviously because it's a hatchback, it's got a really rather spacious cargo area. Those back seats can also be folded down to make it even more spacious. So yeah, I can fully see why this was the second most popular in 1974, because yeah, it offers pretty much the same kind of space you get in a wagon, but it's a lot more stylish, a lot more sporty, and even though Forza considered it a classic muscle car, it really wasn't. It was a compact car that just so happened to have a large engine. The only muscle car variant of this car was the SC360, which was only on offer for 1 year, and less than 1,000 of them were made. But it had a hell of a lot of horsepower, and it was pretty damn quick apparently. But this car's still not too shabby for horsepower wise. It's got a 5.9 litre V8 engine, which produces 175 horsepower and 285 pounds-feet of torque, which is pretty decent. That's actually pretty much the same kind of power you get from a Chevy Camaro Z28 from a few years later, but because this car only weighs 3,100 pounds, it's able to make more use of that kind of power, and yeah, I actually prefer it to the likes of those Camaros and later Mustangs that we had on the likes of Forza Motorsport 7. So yeah, really do like this car, and yeah, it's obviously best to see what this car can do out on the open road. So yeah, let's get out there and see what it can do. Now, being an early 70s US domestic car, it's not going to have the best handling in the world by any means, but it's a fun car nonetheless to drive. And I really like the sound of that V8 engine, which yeah, might well be low revving, only does up to 5,000 RPM, but it's pretty torquey with that near 300 pound-feet of torque, and because, like I said, it's relatively lightweight, it's able to use that power. And I can fully see why James Bond nicked one of these from a showroom to chase after Scaramanga, who was also in an AMC. I think it was a Matador or something like that, which ended up turning into a flying car, so he kind of got outclassed on that front. But yeah, it was involved in that cracking car chase and that incredible stunt. And yeah, in terms of performance in this version, it's 0 to 60 in 8.1 seconds, 0 to 121.6 seconds, and it'll go into a top speed of 131 miles an hour, which is not bad at all. In fact, that's quicker than a later Ford Mustang King Cobra, which had even less weight than this, but also a lot less in terms of power and torque. So yeah, it's a cracking vehicle, really, and AMC I think are quite underrated in terms of American car manufacturers. Obviously they eventually got swallowed up by Chrysler and only the Jeep brand name ended up living on outside of AMC. But yeah, underrated, and might well not have had a lot of iconic cars like Chevrolet, Ford or Dodge, but quite frankly, considering the fact that they had a lot less in terms of money and manpower, they were able to create several incredible cars, and this is one of them. And the fact it was such a good basis for several other vehicles that weren't even slightly similar. I mean, the AMC Eagle, like I said, was a relatively high-riding all-wheel drive station wagon crossover thing. Just shows how versatile this car was, and the fact it only lasted 7 years is a bit of a shame. But you know, designs ended up moving on. The Concorde was a more luxurious car than this, and they had to move on. You know, they had to evolve or die, quite frankly. But nonetheless, a cracking vehicle, and the fact that it was in one of the best stunts in film history will mean that this car will live on for a very long time in pop culture and in the eyes of me, quite frankly, and I'm so glad it's in this game, and hopefully it'll be in the next Forza Motorsport game. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.